Hey everyone, Madilynn Dale here, the chapter goddess. I am a mom, author, blogger, freelancer, podcaster, producer, and overall creative. With this show, I really want to focus on creatives and bring their authentic self to life. How are they motivated to pursue their passions? What have been the struggles along the way? Does self-care play an important role in who they are today and how they connect with the creative flow? Bringing one's authentic self to the forefront is important in this world that we live in currently. Sharing your self-care, your tips, and how you stay on track for things without losing it completely is also important. Self-care is not talked about enough, and authenticity and self-care are what I like to highlight with my creatives, as well as getting to know them. So get ready for a fun and entertaining show. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get ready to meet this episode's guest. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Chapter Goddess Book Chat. I have another fantastic creative for you guys to meet today. This author has quite a few books out there, a fun series out there, especially for you guys that are gamers too. This sounds like it would be right up your alley. But without further ado, let me bring him in and let you guys meet him.
Hello.
So go ahead and tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your book series.
Okay, so my real name is Ramūnas Mitsuta. That's a Lithuanian name. I was born in Lithuania. It's a small country near Baltic Sea. And but now I've been living in UK for almost 13 years. So I'm married, I have 3 kids, and life is fun. So how I decided to become an author, I actually never planned to become an author. Excuse my, not French, but English. So at the beginning of 2020, I think I was in a state of somewhere between boredom or a bit of anxiety, maybe, with a slight depression, maybe. So I thought, I don't know how the idea came out. I thought, okay, let's just do something, fun, something, whatever. And for whatever, the idea of sitting down and writing some version. I thought just write something line where, and maybe I'll make a few pennies in the process. So I started with Wattpad and some other online Scribble Hub, I think, yeah. And I started writing and posting chapter by chapter every week. And every time I would sit down to write, I'm thinking well, what should I write now? Okay, well, let's just continue the story, And then little by little, maybe couple months, 6 maybe months down the line, it was from what I wrote at that time, maybe it was 2 full books written already. And I was sitting there maybe there's a book coming out of it. So after quite a few months, I started thinking between the lines, maybe, I should start looking at it more seriously. And because I was getting good feedback from people who were reading, because, Wattpad and other websites, that's just for readers. People find stories they read. And I was receiving a really good feedback. Is every time, especially somebody new who would find my my story, right? And by that time, there was like, 2 books, maybe like 50, 60 chapters I had it. So that's about like 150,000 words, maybe more. Anyway, yeah, and somebody, because you can use on those websites, and then started reading. It's like a couple of days later, where's more? They would like comment, where's more? So that's how it started, really. I could say the rest is history, but there's so much that happened now. So
it's so crazy. Relate to how you got started into that. I've always been like an avid reader, and I was like, you know what? Let's just play with this idea, see where it leads, and it kind of led to the same path you took with your stories. And it's like, okay, but I wasn't posting chapters. I just kind of like shared it with a few people. And they were like, you should publish this. And I was like, I don't know about that. But really, once you push that publish button, there's no turning back. And it's like, you're thrust into this new world of like writing and readers and other authors. And it's just, there's a lot to it, Tell me a little more about the Circle Star Adventure series you've got
out. Well, that's those are the books that, the writing on a whim, that's what turned into eventually. And I know it's a weird name for a book series. It has a meaning, but it is like basically revealed as the story progresses. So I have 5 books in the series so far, and there's still a lot to reveal about why is it called a Circle Star Adventure, because well, I can say, because you also already mentioned, there's it's a fantasy. Obviously, it has gaming elements put into it, like written. There's some, because they use magic, they use skills, the characters become stronger. So it's not exactly like video game, but it has some references to how it is. And specifically the Circle Star is that one thing that represents the hello kitty. Yeah, you have questions for me as well, right? Something. So I thought, because there's a meaning behind circle and star, and this, at first I thought this book about adventure, so I thought, okay, Circle Star Adventure, So at that time, I just couldn't think of anything better. So then I had 3 books out, and I thought, well, I'm not changing the name now.
But let's talk about your character, TC. He's the main character of the series, right?
Yeah.
Where did the inspiration for him come from?
Oh, it's basically like, well, from all the gaming I have done in my short years, 20 plus of gaming. So actually, well, when I started to write, I decided to do it on a whim. It's like a fun thing. I didn't think of like taking it seriously from the beginning. Yeah. So actually, even the first book, The Meeting Eve, I'll advertise. It's more cheesy, like funny, cheeky. It's like a bit more of a silly, because I was just writing for fun. I never thought like creating something like oh, I'll become this author, and write books and stuff. So when I do get comments from people. It's like a 14-year-old in an adult bodies are acting like a child and stuff. But I didn't want to have it like serious this is tough guy stuff.
Yeah.
And how the TC name came about is, again, because I used to play a game, and there was a name for my character, but everyone, and because I was online, I was playing with other people, just shortened the characters, called me TC. And because I was basing the story, the fantasy I took out from the gaming and stuff, I thought, okay, I'll just call him TC. It's will be easy. I never thought it's gonna become like a real book. But now it is. So now there's the whole backstory that I will have to think of, create, and stuff. So yeah. People who know TC would be blown away.
Do you have something in mind for TC's backstory already?
Oh yeah, I have. I mean, I have the whole series. I know the ending, and it's exciting and depressing at the same time, because the ending is so awesome. It's. I don't want to say that what happens. Because originally, and it's funny, when I started to write, I had to learn a ton. I mean, I thought I knew English, but I was sitting in front of vocabulary and trying to figure out like how to use terms, how to connect sentences in a way that it was readable. Because I went online, I started reading other people's work, and honestly, more often than not, they were hard to read. I mean, by the time I go to second paragraph, I don't remember what was in the first one, because it was so cluttered and so difficult to read. I couldn't remember what they were trying to say. So from the very beginning, I was trying to adapt a style that would be easy to read. Yeah. So in my books, I don't know how much you read, because you said the name character TC. Obviously, it's on a description on the books, right? So unless you didn't read it, but because I try to use language to make it easier for me. I want to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Well, and on this one aspect, I got quite a good feedback, and like a majority of it was said. People say it was so easy to read.
That's good.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that. Yeah, that doesn't mean that there weren't any mistakes and stuff, and it went through a lot of editing. But I always love to remember a quote by a famous speaker. He said, I always speak on the fifth grade level. Because he said, if I speak at the fifth grade level, then even college professors would be able to understand me. So I just adopted this. I said, okay, the simpler, the better.
That is true. You'll bring in more readers, I feel, if you have more of a simple, easy to read book like that than one that's higher up with extra challenging words and stuff. And for some, I know I read on a higher level, but if I come across a word that I don't know or that doesn't make sense, it just throws me out of the story. And it's not fun to do that to readers, because readers, it upsets them. They want to stay in your story. So if it's simple, it's just kind of pulling them along and keeping them interested. So, but let's talk a little more about TC and he meets Eve, right? So tell our viewers how they meet and who she is to him, as I bite my cat, who still wants to get in front of the computer.
Yeah, well, that's fine. So the story, so basically the story starts when TC, the main character, wakes up in a new world. So in in video or anime world, it would be called isekai. If you ever heard the term isekai, is used in Japanese anime when a character from Earth usually dies and then gets reincarnated in the magical world, fantasy world. So yeah, so that's what people call isekai. So, but I will tell the main character doesn't die in my story. He just gets teleported to a new world. So I just used a little bit of that genre. I don't know. To somehow, well, I thought I have to start story somehow, so I just chose that. So in this new fantasy world, well, he doesn't know anything. He's new, and well, goes out to learn about it, right? So he encounters an elf woman in a forest who puts a blade to his throat, which surprises him because I mean, it's a fantasy magical world, right? And there's many races different. So he comes also from the world, which is in our eyes would be fantasy world as well. So he knows elves exist, but it takes him by surprise. The elf is hostile.
Yeah.
All in all, I mean, they exchange pleasantries, and then he goes to find a town where he can get more information. So as it happens in this world, we also have adventurers, guilds, monsters, the guild jobs or quests, as people how they call them. But there's one particular detail in this world that is new, well, to TC basically. So with the help of summoning magic, you can summon a female companion.
Oh.
And basically the way the world is built, or basically the town, which is called Saramis, where he ends up in, is the guild only accepts adventurers who have a female companion.
Okay.
So when I was like originally thinking about the premises and then this story, remember, I never thought of writing a book. It was just something on a whim, right?
Yeah.
So when I said that, I thought, okay, so where could I, because going just on adventures would be boring. So I thought I'll think of something, well, the romance aspect, right? How and where, so I thought of a thing, and this particular summoning thing basically came out from a game I used to play.
Yeah.
And the whole star thing, the stars also came as in like from the game, right? Because then the adventurers, the female adventurers, because they have a specific magic, they can be summoned. Their strength is measured by stars. So that one thing comes from like game lit, as lit RPG. So you can summon a companion, and they would have X amount of stars or star rarity, and that will define how strong they are.
Oh.
So men adventurers are measured by ranks, by the guild, while the female adventurers are measured by stars that they have. So it's just something I came up, and I thought I'll just go with it. And as I continued writing, then as the story progressed, and people were giving feedback, some were asking questions, what about this, what about that, and because the reason I was putting my story online was to get feedback.
Yeah. And that's also a great way to start building your readership. Like, there's a lot of authors that have started like with that, and they've grown into a massive like following that way. So
Yeah, well, I messed up on that account, so yeah. Because I wasn't writing as to become an author or just writing for the sake of writing. So I must admit I didn't build. I mean, I messed up. I didn't get the readership because I didn't do any social media. I didn't do any. I didn't have my website. I didn't have anything. I was just posting them online.
Yeah, but it's always good to get that feedback, and then it's
so it helped me
where you are now.
I learned a ton. I mean, especially in my writing and style and stuff. So going back to the story. So he because he's a new world. He has no money. He has nothing. So he goes to get the information and meets a friendly innkeeper who had been an adventurer in his time.
Yeah.
And he tells him what to do, where to go, and it's a huge surprise for the main character that he can summon a companion. He says, so the innkeeper's name is Grog, and he says, well, you need a companion to be able to get jobs at the guild. And then there's I use that bit dialogue in my advertising.
Yeah, I saw that because I was curious about Grog too, about like how did he originally meet him? Like how did the two meet?
So TC just went found his way out of a forest, went to the nearest village that he found, and then from there he went to this big city, Saramis, and usually, in these type of adventure type of fantasy worlds, the best place to get information would be a pub or an inn, So he went in there to ask, where can he get a job or whatever, And then Grog said him, and then he asked Grog, said, okay, so where can I hire a companion? And then Grog's like looking at him like, you don't hire them, you summon them. And TC was like, what?
He's like, okay, and then that's how it goes. And
okay.
Yeah.
So it was so for him, and I get, especially at the beginning and even now, I get that a lot, from that world's perspective, when you read a book or watch a movie or something, the fantasy, you need to look from the that world's perspective, how it is, because in that world it's normal.
Yeah.
For us, something is like, oh, they can't do that. That's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he goes. Grog advises him, go to the Temple of Summoning, and you summon a companion, and you can get jobs at the guild. He's like, okay, I'm broke. Let's go. So he goes to Summoning Temple. He meets Farla, who's a temple priestess. It was just a character I created. I thought, well, just going to the temple without nothing, and then, I thought I'll create a character. And in the end, she became a half main character. She stayed in the story, and now I created a backstory for her that blew people's minds off. Is gonna be fun in book 6 again. What's happening? But I'm not gonna spoil.
Yeah.
So he goes there, and then there's a summoning chamber. He can summon a companion, and that's where he summons Eve.
Yeah.
And that's when they meet. There's also this thing called pact. So when you either summon a girl as a companion, or because it's a magical world, right? A man and a woman can form a pact and become partners.
Okay.
So that's where the intimacy part comes in. Because you need to kiss to form a pact.
Oh. I bet he was not prepared for that, was he?
No, he actually forgot to ask Farley what to do in order to form a pact.
Yeah.
And at that time, and then when I wrote this, I didn't change. But when Eve appeared, the pact was already been formed. So he didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to do either because she's like a new person as well. She knows like it's normal for her to be like she's summoned, right? But they are still humans. Whether a person is summoned or not, they're still normal humans, right? It's just a type of magic I thought of when I was writing. And well, it's it. So the pact was already formed, and the backstory behind this, I left out because I thought I'll include that.
Yeah.
When I write the book about TC and his world and how he grew up and stuff. So I thought I'll leave that for later and stuff, but then the story progressed. It's like it came out completely how I unexpected it would.
Yeah.
That bit got forgotten by anyone. I've just spoken about this, and people will have like, oh, now you have to tell us, right?
Yeah.
Whoever's going to listen, right? But I mean, the TC has a past of his own, and basically he does a lot of things because of where and how he grew up, and it's not getting revealed about his past. It's not being revealed like a lot. It's like tiny bit things. Because I wanted to leave it out because I'm planning to write the whole book on how he grew up and stuff, because there's a whole different story behind it, right?
Yeah.
So I include little by little, but most people miss it because I do get questions or comments, or reviews from people like, oh, why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? I don't want to start about the intimate part of a relationship.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to process. I hope I answered at least part of your question.
Yeah, you showed how they met and everything. Yeah. So I'm going to change it up a little bit.
So
now that you've got books out there and everything, do you have a writing routine going now to keep like the story going?
Well, yeah, I tried to, but I found it's an interesting thing happened, right? Because 2020 was the beginning of lockdown year, right?
Yeah.
And it was becoming a bit depressing and stuff. So that's one of the reasons that for me, writing was like an escape from like not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But then when it was, I would go out of the house to write. So I would go to a park and sit on a bench, write for an hour, for how long, just being away somewhere, right? So when the coffee shops began to open again, I started to go to coffee shops because I when I started to write, I would write for 2-3 hours, maybe sometimes when it went really well, for longer. So, well, sitting at the park in the middle of nowhere, sometimes was difficult because I would have to drop my writing and go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the weather was bad. So again, it's not because I don't like being home.
Yeah, but it's different. Like your mind is in a different space.
Yeah. Well, it was 3 years ago, right? And my kids were much smaller than they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be quite a few distractions. So then I got used to going out of the house to write. So and more often it's usually in the morning. I would leave in the morning. There's like my family would be sleeping still because they're sleepy. What you call sleepy heads or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go out like 8, like before 9. And yeah, I would sit at the coffee shop and then write for whatever hours I write. So, or I will bring my computer when I have my, I haven't shown my manuscript because I write with pen in a journal. So I have whatever I can show. Want me to show?
Yes, go ahead.
Manuscript. These are, there's not all of them. It's like there's way more. So I write in this journal with the pen. I found it was much easier for me to think and to be creative, and I can. There's lots of time I write, right, and think. Okay, the main question I always ask when I don't know what to write about is like, okay, what would I like to happen next?
Yeah.
That's the main question always. When I don't know what to write, okay, what would I like to see happen next? Always works. So yeah, and in a journal I would write, and I would probably, I don't know if you can see, right?
Yeah.
So that's scribbling, and then I would cross off things and stuff, and but it always stays there. So when I go and type in computer, I can read and stuff. And something I wrote, I thought it doesn't fit into the story. I just like cross or whatever, just skip and write anew. But then as the story goes, I thought, oh, I could include that didn't fit here now, right? Or even some bits are changed, or the ideas stay in the notebook. If I write in a document, in a Word document, for example, like from the beginning, oh, this doesn't fit, delete.
Yeah.
You write something else, and it's gone. Yeah. And the whole thing is gone. And then you try to remember, okay, well, I thought about writing something like this and stuff. So there are chapters in my journals that were not put in the main story in the book because I thought it doesn't fit there or for whatever reason, right? But it stays, whatever happens to computer, I still have my, journals.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that was a long answer to a very short question.
But no, that's your writing process. I mean, that's how you do it. So
yeah. So yeah.
Well, we have reached the end of our time. So go ahead and tell our viewers where they can find your books and where they can follow you.
Okay, so books are on Amazon. So yeah, so that's the first book. How do I? Okay, so that's Meeting Eve, Circle Star Adventure. So I have 5 books. Book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5. See, book 5, like one woman wasn't enough. Book 5 is 2 now. So they're on Amazon. You can find them on Amazon.com.uk, Canada, all the possible, marketplaces. I have a website which is called CircleStarAdventure.com. So it's easy to, I hope. And the Facebook page, which is, it is called Atucim Sanumar. So it's it's a funny story of how I came up with the author's name. But I'll leave for you to figure that one out. So yeah, and Facebook and yeah, that's it. I don't use any other social media. So if you want to connect, yeah, I'd love to connect on Facebook. I love feedback. So if anyone reads any of my books and want to complain, like, don't write the negative review. Come to me directly and say, I hated this, I didn't like it. That was so bad. I'm gonna say thank you. It's like, obviously I love good feedback too. So come to me. Good feedback.
Good feedback is how we get better as writers. So.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, so I love that feedback.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for hanging out with me on the book chat.
Okay, my pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to get future notifications when shows come out. Also, be sure to check out my website. I have a blog featuring this creative with some other fun and interesting questions. You can also subscribe to my newsletter there to stay up to date with all things the Chapter Goddess and Madilynn Dale. Once again, thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day.